to the 2020-2021 Conejo Valley Unified School District's Focus on the Arts program. This exciting arts adventure is funded by 2 grants from generous partners, including Access Arts, an initiative of TO Arts, along with Conejo Schools Foundation. Have fun, and remember, you can work at your own pace. Don't forget to use that pause button. And this is family fun for the whole family, so gather everyone around and you can all work together. And if you don't have the materials, you can improvise. That means use what you got. And no matter what, remember, even though we're apart, we're connected by art.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Mrs. Friedman, and I'm so excited because today we have a really special episode for our very last lesson in the month of February. So you may recall all month long, we've been studying jazz and we've been studying some really awesome art coming together with music. And today we have a special guest. I need to use my notes to introduce her. This is a member of our jazz band at Westlake High School. She plays trombone. She's also the president of the Music Honor Society. And she also has time to play on the lacrosse team and is part of the Science Olympia team. And while she's a senior at Westlake High School, she's also the Board of Trustees student representative, and she's headed to University of Chicago in the fall. Let's hear it for Westlake High School senior Addie Craig. Woo! This is Addie. I'm so excited to introduce her to you today because she's going to tell us what it's like to be in a jazz band. She's in the jazz band at Westlake High School. We're going to see some behind the scenes footage of members of the jazz band and also learn about their instruments. So Addie, take it away. Tell us about what it's like to be in the jazz band.
Hi, everyone. So thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to talk about jazz with you all. Being in the jazz band is this is my 7th year playing jazz in the jazz band, and I started at Los Cerritos Middle School in 6th grade, starting on trombone and playing in their jazz band. And it's probably been one of my favorite experiences all throughout middle and all throughout high school. You meet so many friends and you get to learn a completely different style of music that you don't get to learn in regular band class. And overall, it's just been such a great experience and has helped me develop as a musician.
That is so exciting. So what would you say is the main difference between playing in a jazz band versus like a concert band where you also play, I believe, tuba, right? Don't you play tuba and concert band and a marching band? So what is the main difference when it comes to being in different types of bands?
So the main difference between jazz band and concert band, the first thing I think of is size. So concert band can be really, really big. The one I'm at in Westlake has over 60 students in it. But then in a jazz bands can be as small as just 3 people or as big as 20 plus people. So, but really it comes down to style. So classical music, we read the music off the piece of paper. There are different styles within that too, but in jazz, it's a little bit different. The main difference is we have this thing called improvisation, or some people call it improv. So typically in the middle of a jazz song, we have a solo section. And this is when one person is selected to play all by themselves. But the catch is they make it up on the go. So they're not reading any music. All they are is just them, their instrument, and they read these things called chord changes. So that's kind of like a roadmap. So, you read this chord change and you can play this variety of notes. And then just with that small information, they make up almost their own song right in the middle of the other song. And that's called improv. And jazz band, you learn how to do that. You learn how to read these things called chord changes, and you learn how to solo on your own and make up music as you go. So that's the main difference between jazz band and then our concert band. And that's a really fun part of jazz.
So is that scary? Do you get nervous if you have to play on your own and make it up as you go?
Yeah, I know I get nervous whenever I solo, especially when I was in middle school and first starting. But after a while, I kind of like to think of jazz almost as it's like a second language. Once, the more you practice it, the more you learn about it, you learn new notes, new rhythms, new styles. The more comfortable you get, the less nervous you become. So by the time, couple years down the line, the more you solo, the more comfortable you get. And when you're out on the stage, it's actually really fun.
Wow, that must be really exciting, especially after you complete a solo portion and you're like, yeah, that was good. You give yourself a little pat on the back or something. Yeah. I've seen jazz concerts before, and it sounds like after a good solo jam session, people applaud, right? That's okay to do. Whereas at like a symphony or something classical, you wouldn't applaud in the middle of the concert, right? Is that how that works?
Yeah, another big difference between concert and jazz band is much more relaxed. So you also see a lot of interaction between musicians in the jazz band. So if someone plays really good solo, you'll even notice the members of the band will shuffle the feet, or they'll give them a nod, or, you know, a wave if they're in their section. So you can definitely see the connection between musicians and jazz band.
Wow. So it's almost like the musicians and the director kind of have like a little secret language going on.
Definitely.
And that's how they know how it rolls. That's really cool. So what are the types of instruments that one might find in a jazz band?
So typically in a jazz band, this is what we have in the Conejo Valley, our jazz bands, you have saxophones, and there are totally many different types of saxophones, which we'll be able to show you, including the bari saxophone or the baritone saxophone, the tenor saxophone, the alto saxophone, and the soprano saxophone. So that's our whole saxophone section. Then we also have trombones, and that's a regular trombone, which is what I play. And then we have a bass trombone, which is like a trombone, but bigger, so it can play lower notes. And then we also have our trumpet section, and we usually have 5 trumpets, but then that's all our wind instruments. And we have a whole nother section called the rhythm section. So in a rhythm section, we have a drum set, we'll have a piano, we'll have a bass, we'll have a guitar. And in some songs, there's so many different types of jazz music, we'll have additional instruments. So we'll have a vibraphone, which kind of looks like a xylophone or a marimba. Sometimes we'll have bongos, claves, all sorts of different types of what's called auxiliary percussion. So that's additional pieces of percussion. And we have singers too. So if you like to sing, we have sometimes at Westlake, we collaborate with our chorus and choir department, and we'll have them and come sing a song if a certain jazz band has a song in it or lyrics.
That's so cool. That's awesome. So you have different people coming together from the different music groups, and then they can play. So
the Duke and Ella. So let's have a wonderful.
Don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Do-ah, 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 do-ah. It don't mean a thing, all you gotta do is sing. Do-ah, 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 do-ah. Makes no difference if it's sweet or hot. Give that rhythm everything you've got. Oh, it don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing. Do-ah, 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 do-ah.
So it sounds like we don't have a lot of strings. So we would not see strings, because what was it, last month we talked about the symphony, and so in our classes here online. And so it sounds like we don't have like violins or cellos. Do we have cellos? No, we have more of a bass, right?
Yeah, we'll have a bass, and sometimes that can either be an electric bass. So those are the basses that you see held sideways and played sitting down. Right. or we'll have a stand-up bass, which is the bigger one that looks more like a giant violin.
Mhm.
There are some jazz bands though that do have a string section, and they might have a couple of violins and a viola or a cello, but those tend to be more of a style. It's called big band, and that was played a lot more frequently back in the 1940s and the 1950s.
Mhm. That's exciting. So there's almost more than one type of jazz. There can be all different kinds and flavors of jazz, just kind of like how there's different kinds of art, right? That we've talked about over this year doing art apart. So that's pretty cool. How do you get into the jazz band? Do you have to audition? Is it really hard?
It's different per jazz band you're in. So at Westlake, we actually have 3 levels of jazz. But for middle school, if any of you elementary school students are interested in trying jazz in middle school, anyone is free to join. So some of the middle schools, we have 2 levels of jazz band. So you can have multiple drummers, and sometimes you'll have one drummer and then the other drummer will be playing one of those auxiliary percussion instruments that I mentioned. Or sometimes what we'll have is we'll have students alternate between songs. So one of the drummers or one of the pianists will stand to the side, maybe play auxiliary percussion on one of the songs if it's necessary, and then they'll switch out for another song. But there are less rules in jazz bands, so it wouldn't be unheard of if there were 2 pianists or 2 drummers. And
So I was thinking, what if I played drums, but somebody else was already playing the drums? How do I get to be in the jazz band? But it sounds like there are ways to shift around the musicians to be able to play similar types of instruments, if not the same. So that's pretty cool. What is it like to audition to be in the jazz band?
auditioning is definitely one of those, whether you are a musician and you're playing in a band or an orchestra or in a chorus, or if you're into theater, auditions are you always get nervous for auditions, but it's one of those things, it really prepares you for life. And you have to practice and you have to prepare yourself mentally, and it's always nervous going into audition. And no matter how many auditions you do, you'll always have a little bit of nerves. It's just like if any of you guys are in sports and you're a little bit nervous before a big game, it's a similar feeling. So I definitely think when you're auditioning to be in a jazz band or any band at all, you get nervous. But what's so great about the Conejo Valley is we have so many opportunities. Even if you don't know how to play an instrument, you can still join jazz band and they'll teach you how to play an instrument, and you get to learn the style of jazz at a pace that's right for you. So I definitely, one thing that is different though about jazz auditions and concert band auditions is the improvisation or the solo section that I mentioned earlier. So that is one thing that's hard to prepare for, because you don't memorize anything beforehand. You just walk in there, they hand you that sheet of music that just has those chord changes on them, and you do what you got to do.
Wow, and you just take it away and hope that you do a great job, which I'm sure everybody does if they can get into the jazz band. So that's exciting. What is it like to be part of an ensemble, a jazz band? I mean, you play your own instrument, but you still have to care about the other people in the ensemble with you. So it's kind of like being on a sports team in a way, huh?
Yeah, I think band and orchestra and any type of music, it's very similar to a sports team, because it's so important to have teamwork. And what's different is maybe you have to practice your own part. Being in a band, you're expected, I need to know the music and I need to practice so that I can better to improve myself. But what's so unique about music is not only can you work on your own part, but it's so important to work with others around you. And one thing that my band director always tells us is to listen. The most important thing is to listen, and to listen to those around you. And I think that's almost more important in jazz band because it's such a smaller group. you always want to listen to your surroundings, listen to the rhythm section, listen to your section, listen to whoever's in front of you or behind you. So there's so much going on while you're reading your music and you're trying to, do everything on your part. At the same time, you need to be listening around you. So it's similar in the sense where you have that teamwork and you're working together, but then you also have that individual aspect where you want to do your best, but then also help and listen to the ones around you.
Hi, my name is Alex. This is a Westlake Jazz Band, and I play the tenor sax.
My name is Luciano, and I play trombone. I'm Vince, and I play trumpet.
I'm Loudon, and I play the alto saxophone.
I'm Peyton. I play the electric guitar.
I'm Clayton, and I play the bass.
And I'm Mr. Peter, and we're gonna play a combo tune. 1, 2, and a 1, 2,
Wow, so that's a workout for your brain, huh? That's when playing music is a great way to grow your brain and make it really strong. So that's really important to remember. It's just like stretching before you play sports. You have to really use your brain in order to play your instrument and also be part of an ensemble like a jazz band. I want to say thank you so much to Mr. Peter and the musicians that we got to meet today. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Addie, for hosting us and taking us to see what it's like in the jazz band. So I encourage all of my elementary artist friends to try to watch some jazz on YouTube. You can rewatch this video. And when we are able to go to the theater again, I encourage everyone to buy tickets and come see our high schools and our middle schools perform, because they are really talented and they can get you really excited about music. And so much of music also works with art. So I want to say thank you, Addie. You can say goodbye. And all of us appreciate you and thank you so much. And everybody, keep up with your art and your music, and we can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye.